Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Before we begin today's daily quiz, there are a few important announcements. Number one, for the next 2 days, that is the 1st and the 2nd of May, we are on a holiday. So you will not have the daily quiz or the CNA videos on 1st and the 2nd of May. The next daily quiz video will be available with you on the 3rd of May. Second, today will be the beginning of the Target Prelims 2022 crash course that all of you would be aware of. The course begins at 7:30 p.m. in the evening with the first class of Indian Polity. Also, thousands of you who have already been following the crash course on the BYJU'S Exam Prep app, that course will continue as it is. So there is no difference or change in that particular course. If you have not downloaded the BYJU'S Exam Prep app, please do it right away because the crash course is ongoing on the app as well. So do check that out as well. Now let's begin the daily quiz with question number 1. Consider the following statements with regards to Pawan Hans Ltd. Number 1. The DRDO owns a 49% stake in Pawan Hans. Second, it is recognized as a mini Ratna by the Government of India. Third, the organization has been granted air operations permit for scheduled operations under the Udaan 2 scheme. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is B. 2 and 3 are correct. The first statement is wrong because it is not DRDO. It is actually the ONGC that owns a 49% stake in the Pawan Hans. As you know, Pawan Hans Ltd is a government-owned helicopter company that operates more than 40 helicopters in all parts of the country. It also assists ONGC in its operations of exploration and taking its staff from one place to the other. The other two statements are correct. The reason why it is in the news is because of the continuous losses that the company had been facing in the past few years. The government had earlier also tried to sell the Pawan Hans Ltd to private entities. And now finally they seem to have been successful and a deal has been signed for about 414 crore rupees in which the government will sell its stake in the Pawan Hans Ltd. ONGC also as a part of the deal will get 202.86 crore rupees because they are also selling the stake. As of now, ONGC owned 49% of Pawan Hans while the Government of India owned 51%. The entity that will buy Pawan Hans is the Star 9 Mobility, which is a consortium of multiple companies coming together, that is the Big Charter Private Limited, the Maharaja Aviation Private Limited and the Almas Global Opportunity Fund SPC. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to section 124A of the IPC. Number 1. It defines sedition as an offence committed when any person by words, either spoken or written or by signs or by visible representation or otherwise, brings or attempts to bring into hatred or contempt or excites or attempts to excite disaffection towards a government established by law in India. Second, a person charged under this law is barred from a government job. And third, sedition is a non-bailable offence. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D. All these three given statements with regards to section 124A or sedition are correct. Now, over here, do understand, when you say that a particular offence is non-bailable, that doesn't mean that you will never get bail under it. A non-bailable offence means getting a bail is not your right. It depends on the magistrate, it depends on the judge whether or not the bail will be given to you. In case of bailable offences, getting a bail is considered as a right of the person who is involved. The reason why we are discussing this is because the ongoing court proceedings against a former JNU student, that is Umar Khalid, who has been accused of sedition charges against the Government of India. The Delhi High Court, that was supposed to hear the bail appeal of the student activist, has said that let the Supreme Court first take a view on sedition, that is section 124A, and only then we will decide whether or not the bail is to be granted. The court said that section 124A is under challenge before the Supreme Court itself and will be heard on May 5th. Only after that would we give our decision on the bail regarding this particular matter. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to the corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. Number 1. The assets of the Ordnance Factory Board, including its 41 ordnance factories, were transferred to the 7 new firms. Second, the Union government owns 51% stake in all the new 7 firms. Third, the Ordnance Factory Board's headquarters is in Kolkata. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is C. 1 and 3 are correct. The second statement is wrong because the government of India owns all these 7 firms 100%. There is no participation from any other government or private entity. These all come under direct control of the government of India. The reason why we are discussing this is, if you remember, last year the government of India had decided that the 41 factories that work under the Ordnance Factory Board will now be clubbed together to increase their efficiency and will be converted into 7 defense public sector undertaking. Now the latest news is that out of those 7, 6 have registered profits, which is a great sign for the government of India. It is only the Nagpur headquartered Yantra India Limited that has failed to make the profit. Apart from that, all others that started their operation in October last year have registered profits in the last 6 months. Apart from the Yantra India Limited, the other organizations include the Munitions India Limited, the Awadi based Armored Vehicles Nigam Limited, the Advanced Weapons and Equipment India Limited, the Troop Comforts Limited, Optel Limited, and Gliders India Limited. Next, question number 4. With reference to the index of 8 core industries, which amongst the following has the lowest weightage? Cement, coal, natural gas, or fertilizers? The correct answer here is D. Fertilizers amongst these has the least weightage. I am sure you all would be well aware of the 8 industries that together make up the core industries in the IIP, that is the Index of Industrial Production. As the article tells you, the 8 core industries together make up 40.27% of the IIP. The question here has been made with respect to the core sector growth dipping to 4.3% in March, which is lower than the 6% growth that we saw in the month of February. Questions regarding this particular index have been very common in the UPSC in the past few years. As you can see, these are the 8 core industries, with the refinery product industry having the highest weightage of 28.04%, while the fertilizers industry coming at the bottommost with 2.63% weightage only. Next, we have a previous year question from 2020. Consider the following pairs about international agreements and the subjects on which they are based. Alma Ata Declaration, Healthcare of the People. The Hague Convention, Biological and Chemical Weapons. The Talanoa Dialogue, Global Climate Change. Under 2 Coalition, Child Rights. Which of these have been correctly matched? The correct answer here is C. Only 1 and 3 are perfectly matched here. That is, the Alma Ata Declaration is indeed with respect to the healthcare of the people, and the Talanoa Dialogue is with regards to the global climate change debate across the world. The other two, that is the Hague Convention and the Under 2 Coalition, have been incorrectly matched here. The reason being that the Hague Convention is mainly talking about the child rights across the world, while the Under 2 Coalition is with regards to the reduction in the production of greenhouse gases throughout the world. These are some of the details that you must know. The Under 2 Coalition by governments across the world is to reduce the greenhouse gas emission towards net zero by 2050. Also, the Hague Convention is on civil aspects of international child abduction, and that is why the correct answer over there was 1 and 3 only. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about the rules with regards to the IAS officers in the country. This is mainly in the news because of IAS officer Shah Faisal, who had resigned in 2019 from the service to enter a political career, but now has returned to the service. This now brings into the question what exactly are the rules regarding the IAS officers leaving the service and then joining this back. Now, there are certain specific rules with regards to the resignation of IAS officers. A resignation has to be formal in writing by an officer by his or her intention. It should also have specified date from which the officer would leave the service. A resignation also has to be very clear and unconditional. Now, do understand that resignation is very different from accepting VRS, that is Voluntary Retirement Scheme. Those who take the VRS do get pension from the government, while those who resign don't get any pension from the government. In fact, rule number 5 of Death cum Retirement Benefit Rules of 1958 say, no retirement benefits may be granted to a person who has been dismissed or removed from the service or has resigned from the service. This resignation of the IAS officer must be submitted to the Chief Secretary of the state. On the other hand, if the IAS officer is on a central deputation, then the resignation has to be submitted to the Secretary of the concerned ministry or the department in which the IAS officer is working. Now it's a long process. It's not just if you have sent the resignation that is all done. Once the resignation is sent, then the government will check if there are any dues pending against the officer or if there are any cases that are pending against the officer. After that, it is forwarded to the central government, and then the resignation is then considered by the competent authority at the central government level. These competent authorities include the Minister of State at Department of Personnel and Training. This minister is the one that looks into resignation letters of IAS officers. With respect to the IPS officer, it is the Minister of Home Affairs that looks into such resignation letters. Now the question is whether an officer is allowed to withdraw a resignation that has already been submitted. Now the rule says that the central government may permit an officer to withdraw his or her resignation in the public interest. However, the period of absence from the duty between the date of resignation and the date on which the person resumes the duty after withdrawal of resignation should not be more than 90 days. In simple terms, within 90 days or within the first 3 months of a resignation, you can take back the resignation. Now, in case of Shah Faisal, he had resigned officially on Jan 9, 2019, but his resignation was not processed. In fact, his executive record sheet on the government website does not have any details of his posting. However, the latest list of the IAS officers, which can be seen from the DOPT website, does list Shah Faisal as an IAS officer, although without any posting details. In very simple terms, in most of these cases, the government does have a lot of discretion about whether or not to accept the resignation, to reinstate the officer, or request the officer to take back the resignation. And this is what seemed to has happened over here. This is it for today's daily quiz video, and just a reminder, the next daily quiz video would be on the 3rd of May. Thank you so much for watching the video.